Welcome to Conversations Live, where we bring you the best in music, books, entertainment, and more. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 16 years of broadcasting, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience and those tuning in online. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're really excited to welcome to his very first appearance on Conversations Live, Mr. Brian McKnight. You guys know him from some amazing music over the years. He's celebrating a brand new project now called Exodus, a song a lot of you guys are hearing on the radio, especially in my home state of Mississippi right now, is Nobody. We'll talk to him about the new project, what it's been like for him to do what he loves, and, of course, share that with all of you, and let you guys know how to stay connected with him as well. Brian, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Brian, here you are celebrating this new project, Exodus, which people are already loving. I mean, we're going to talk more about the single Nobody here in a bit, but what has this journey been like for you, Brian, to do what you love in music and to see the way that people have responded to your work over the years?
It's pretty amazing. I think when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to gauge how you feel because, at least for myself, I don't know how anybody else does it, I've sort of kept my head down. You know, you put up a Periscope every now and then and see where you are, but, you know, you put out a record and it's the one that's out. So you almost start thinking about the next one, kind of like how car manufacturers have this year's version out. It just comes out and already they have to figure out how to make the next one better. So looking back now, after 20 of them, it's pretty amazing that people, one, that I'm still doing this and being relatively successful at it and wanting more music. It's very humbling and then very satisfying, for sure.
Well, I think it's also been satisfying for your fans over the years, even as we've been sheltering in place this year, Brian. Not exactly the 2020 a lot of people were expecting, but you made headlines already this year. Of course, even with the way you've been able to use social media, namely Instagram, and be able to kind of connect with your audience. I've seen you even going live and being able to showcase there. How has that been for you? Because you haven't been able to go out the way you're used to doing with your fans, but what has it been like for you to build that virtual connection with them?
It's interesting. I think social media is probably the greatest and worst thing that's ever happened because, one, you can, you know, have access and people, you know, you can do things you wouldn't normally be able to do directly to your fan base, but it doesn't stop there. They also have access to you, too, and that's not always the greatest thing in the world, that people can just contact you who normally wouldn't be able to. But you take the good with the bad, and I think that during this time, not being able to go out and actually see people, it gives them an opportunity to see you sort of in your own natural element where, you know, you normally have a concert where you have all the bells and whistles. Now, you know, you can sit at home and do things unplugged and do things impromptu and do them without a schedule. So it's been good and bad for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about, you know, the longevity factor, Brian. We both know that in your industry that is not a given for sure. What do you think has been the key to your success over the years? As you kind of look at what you've been able to do from project to project, what do you think has kind of helped you to be able to stay in the game and keep moving when so many have stopped?
Wow. If I knew the answer to that question, I'd bottle it and I'd sell it to every artist out there who's looking for that. I think it's a combination of things. I think that I set myself up in the very beginning with a foundation of being who I am. And I think I've stayed true to that over all the years as my dog is going down the hall. I've been able to stay true to that, and I think that people have come to expect a certain thing from me, and I think that I've done my best to deliver that over the years. I mean, if you want Brian McKnight type songs, you do Brian McKnight, and I'm pretty much the only one that's going to give you that. So I'd like to think that those are the reasons. I wish I knew.
Yeah. Well, I think, as people kind of look at your career, Brian, I think the thing is, they always know they're going to get good music. I think that is the thing, and we see that even in this new project with Exodus. I want to talk about Nobody because it is a single that, like as I mentioned, even in my home state of Mississippi, is getting a lot of rotation. At the time that you and I are having this conversation, Brian, the YouTube video, the official video, has almost 2 million views. This is a very powerful song, but you've been able to give us other great songs. I've seen people online compare this to Back at One. Do you think love is kind of the central part of who you are as an artist?
I think it's been the theme that once I met my wife, then it became my way of life because everything that I've done has been about the love that we have. I never had anything like that before. When I wrote Back at One, it wasn't even based on someone. It was based on a manual for a DVD player, and I tried to figure out how to make that into a love song. You know, nobody. I'm sitting there looking at my wife, Leilani, while she's blow drying her hair, and the lyrics just come. And I think you can hear the difference. You know, all the songs that I wrote before, 2012 were very on the surface. They didn't really get deep into what I would call the heart of a song. And it hasn't been but since we met that I really have been able to channel something that I never had before, which was, a heart and actual love for anything other than myself. And once you give yourself to somebody else, you have a whole different perspective on creativity and where it comes from.
Right. Well, this album is making, I think, a lot of headlines for a lot of different reasons, Brian. For one thing, it's a great album, but of course, people are talking about this being for you kind of an exodus in a sense. Talk to us about that, because it's funny, when we hear about these projects that come out, and we're always either, I think, when it comes to, for myself, music or books, when I finish something, I'm always curious about when the next thing is coming out. Talk to us about kind of going into exodus, what the thought process was with this kind of being a final project.
I just felt like, as my wife and I travel around the world doing all these shows, that how wonderful it would be for us to see the world and be together without having it be based on a schedule. I thought that at this point, after almost 30 years, it's kind of time to see what the next chapter might be. Waking up not defined by the things that we do, but by what makes us happy. And I went in going, and it was interesting because I made the last record, Genesis, not knowing that the next one would be Exodus, but it just came about just because of the way we live our lives. And even into the pandemic, being together every second of the day and really just being around the house and doing, the things that make us happy made me even have that way of thinking come even more to fruition. So I'm really excited about the prospect. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not retiring. I'll still do shows. I'll still do some things. It's just a matter of whether or not I make actual records anymore. Right now, I don't see that happening.
Got you. Well, one thing I want to mention that you had that you said actually in an interview with ABC, Brian, that as you kind of talked about this, and which is why I asked you the question about the reflection. You talked about Genesis, and you said that you wanted to go back and revisit every aspect of the music that you've created from the very beginning. Do you kind of see your albums? Do you kind of see this process almost like chapters of your life? Do you think we've gotten to know you better through your music?
I think you have. Probably in the last 6 years. I never really had a life to talk about before that. When I finally had something to talk about, I think that's when people, and with the advent of social media, being able to see our lives, being able to see the things that we do and how we live every day, has brought a light onto who I am, and who I am is Leilani's husband. It's really great to give the way that I give to her and to our family, which is something that I'm more proud of that than probably everything that's happened in my career. And I know that I only have a career because she came into my life. I really felt like when at that time, the kind of music that we've all come to love from the 90s was really in a downward spiral. And she came and really, like the lyric in Back at One said, breathed new life into my creative process, and even having hope for great songs being able to get the light of day. And since the time we've been together, you've seen a resurgence. At least for myself, I've seen it in concert grosses and in charting singles, and it's been quite the journey, and it's been a wild ride.
Last thing I want to ask you, Brian, and I appreciate the time. I know it's been a crazy busy schedule for you. I talked about earlier about music and the role it's played in helping all of us kind of get through difficult times, especially during 2020 where there's so much difficulty. Talk to us about the role. I didn't think about this until you were just talking. How has music helped you? Because I've been talking to you about what it's done for the fans, but how has music helped you in your journey and kind of getting through life?
Well, it's always been there. Through everything that there's ever been, from the beginning of time, music in some form has been there to be the shoulder to cry on, or to be the hand up that you need. I dare say that even before electricity and before instruments, that people were playing music because it did exactly that. It's been a part of our culture. It's been a part of our heritage. It's been a part of our ups and our downs. And just like everyone else, I always turn to music to just get things back on track. You know, in the 60s during the civil rights movement, there was all of this music that was there to help with the struggle. Music is always there, and it will always be there to help the struggle.
Yeah. And we're glad that we have your music to help us through our times as well. Again, everyone, Brian McKnight has been our guest. The new project is called Exodus. It's available now through your favorite online retailer. You guys know our partner is Amazon.com, but you guys can get it from the other places too. The single we talked about here is Nobody. Make sure you guys are also staying connected with Brian. You can find him on Instagram at Brian McKnight23 and also on Twitter at It's B McKnight. Brian, really do appreciate this time, man. It's been great speaking with you and looking forward to having you back on the program again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live.